This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Wright Honda and Wright Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm your host, Jay Finning. Coming up on today's show, Barrett Jackson just came through. The Super Bowl is coming up, which means the annual Super Bowl episode will also be coming up while I reach out to celebrities that we all know, as well as some people that we all don't know, but I know, to give their predictions. So that'll be coming up on the next episode. The Washington football team has a new name. Also, this past December, Chris Ashworth, my friend from Michigan, who connected me with the opportunity to not only see one of my dream cars, but I actually got to ride in my dream car. You guys remember that? The Vector W8? He came in studio. We're going to have that conversation, dive a little bit more into what makes him tick. He's been doing this for a long time. He's been doing the car thing for a long time with video, and I feel like he's kind of like the Paris Hilton in a sense. You know how Paris Hilton peaked before everything got popular, and then the Kardashians are kind of reaping those rewards, those type of benefits with how our society just becomes obsessed with stupid shit. So he's kind of like the Paris Hilton version, in my opinion, of kind of the automotive video. He was out there doing all this stuff on YouTube before it got really big, and it was just eye candy entertainment, but it wasn't like Scotty Kilmer where he's showing you how to do stuff. And now everybody's a YouTuber. So we talk a little bit about that. Also, Drew Bunkley stops by in studio from Fountain Hills Motorsports, new sponsor to the show. And we talk about the BMW M6 that he threw me the keys to. All that and more coming up right after this word from 4 Wheel Online. Jay Finning here, and I want to tell you guys about 4 Wheel Online. For over a decade, 4 Wheel Online has been bringing the best truck accessories and truck parts to enhance the appearance and performance of all trucks and SUVs. They are dedicated to providing an extensive range of upgrades that will match any maker model on the road. Their truck products cover everything you need to give your truck a custom look and added functionality. And if you need a tire and wheel package, head over and use the configuration tool. They carry all the major brands of wheels and tires, so go get outfitted today. So visit them online at 4Wheel Online or call them at 813-769-2451. Again, that's 4Wheel Online, the number 4 Wheel Online. For those of you who are new to the show, I am a diehard sports fan. I actually like sports in general more than I even like cars, and this is a non-automotive automotive podcast. So with that being said, as every game has been so far in this NFL playoffs, last weekend's matchups, NFC and AFC championship game, did not disappoint. Macaulay Culkin is the quarterback for the Bengals. Actually, it's Joe Burrow, but he kind of looks like a grown-up version of Macaulay. If Macaulay was like smoking stogies and thought he was super freaking cool. Imagine him in Home Alone, as cool as he thought he was in that movie as an NFL quarterback, and then you have Joe Burrow. And then you have Matthew Stafford. I lived in Michigan for 15 years. Guy got a bad rap with Detroit Lions. People were talking shit about him all year as a Rams quarterback. So he's actually going to the Super Bowl. This is the first time not only did he go to the playoffs, because he's gone a few times, but he's never won. But now he's in the Super Bowl. Kind of excited about that. I am also excited about next week's episode. If you guys joined us on One Drink Wednesday, you knew that we talked about the Washington Commanders, which is the new name of the Washington Redskins. And yes, if you're new to this, by the way, this is an automotive podcast. Society and culture comes first. I can talk about sports. I can talk about whatever I want. So on One Drink Wednesday with myself and Wes Tankersley, we do it every Wednesday on Instagram Live. This week we did talk about, it's not this week. Last week we talked about the Washington team. And then we talked about sports in general and, where do you draw the line? And it kind of hustled and tussled and fell over into the whole Confederate flag thing. Do you take down the statues? Do you not take down statues? And we all kind of agreed. We didn't agree to disagree. We all were kind of agreeing on the same things and questioning the same things. But, I think that the Washington Redskins needed to change their name to the Commanders. We get it, right? We get it because Redskin has it's a racial thing. It's a negativity thing. It's like calling white people honkies. Like, you can't do it. It's like calling black people spooks. The Washington Spooks. How do you think that would go? But then you have the Blackhawks. Black Hawk pays homage to a guy named Black Hawk. You have the Cleveland Indians had to redo their name because the logo was a little offensive. We don't think about that. Microaggression. We just knew about it our whole life. Out of our own ignorance, everything was fine. But to the people that it mattered to the most, it wasn't. And that's how change happens. So join us on Instagram, One Drink Wednesday, myself and Wes Tankersley. I'll tell you how to do that at the end of the show. Barrett Jackson. I went twice. So first off, special thanks to Jane DeMelio, Right Honda and Right Toyota for hooking up the credentials to allow me to get in and do some cool stuff. I also went outside of that with my wife, Dre, and his wife, Leo, on the opening Sunday. If you're going to go to Barrett Jackson, you just want to look around and not worry about the giant crowds with any other year except for this year. And I say except for this year, 2022, because this was their biggest year ever, their most busiest year ever. They sold the most, they did the most money ever, and we'll get into that in the car news section. But if you want to just go with your family, friends, and want to go chill, go before the Wednesday of Barrett Jackson week, the auction, because Tuesday is a Tuesday or Wednesday. They actually start running cars through the block. And it's kind of cool because you get to hear the auctioneer go off and stuff, but a lot of the stuff is closed down before that, but you can still walk through and take a look at everything. And so we walked through it. Man, we were probably there for Sunday. Let's see, we got there around noon and it closed at 3. That's the thing. It closes a little early. And you have to walk fast if you want to see everything. I always describe it as like you're going to Six Flags, but there are no rides, really. I mean, they have some ride-alongs, but there are no real rides. But the money, you have all the food, the turkey legs, I don't think they have funnel cakes. But they have the theme park prices, that's for damn sure. And you can buy everything you want, from massage chairs to boats to small aircraft to hand paintings. It's like it's a rich person's like flea market, swap meet. But I recommend you go. I went back later in the week. I had to breathe. That sounds kind of weird now. And so later on in the week, it was Saturday, and Drew, who you're going to hear from in a little bit, and I went to Barrett Jackson, met up with Right Honda, met up with Mr. Daryl Hills, his son Weston, and some of his friends, and we went up to Barrett Jackson. And I didn't really get to, it's kind of one of those things, like when you go with a group of people, you kind of do what the group of people do. I'm one of those people. Like, I hate going places by myself. It's almost like you can get more done by yourself if you go by yourself, but then you don't have that camaraderie. You don't have someone to say, hey, what do you think about that car? And so when I went with them, I had more fun just hanging out with them and getting drinks and stuff. But there's still cars that I didn't get to see when I had gone with my wife and Dre and Leo. But that's okay. So the cool thing about Barrett Jackson, if you have the right credentials, you can go almost anywhere you want. But there's levels to this shit, as I keep saying on this show. There's levels of this shit. You can have a VIP pass. You can be a bidder. You can be a bidder guest. When you're a bidder, that's pretty much VIP. Although there's still levels to that. Like if I'm just a random bidder at Barrett Jackson, I can't go up to the lounge, the suite, where all the cool people are hanging out, the people who have the money or the people who have the fame and just got comped for their access. But you can still go just about anywhere else. And when you have a certain VIP pass or a bidder pass, they have specific bars where you can stand in line for an hour and a half and pick up a drink, and all you have to do is tip them. You don't have to pay the money for the bar. The food vendors, you still have to, go outside and pay for that. But if you have, like Mac Dad, Mac Mom, if you just have the FU pass, then they provide food up there too and drink up there too. So you're not having to wait in lines and everything. But for the passes that we had, you can stand on stage. And you can walk around the car on live TV. And JV, Johnny Valencia, who's been on the show before in the past, sent me a text message. I just saw you on TV, dude. LOL. So mission accomplished on that. So if you guys ever get to Barrett, you should, if you have the money or connections, go ahead and make those connections. I almost bought a ticket for myself anyway, but, Jane was like, hey, I got a ticket for you. And I was like, I much appreciated. I appreciate her. Like I said, they did a record this year. Not a lot of cars there that I saw that I couldn't live without, but as you get used to doing it over and over and over, you become numb a little bit. The cars are always cool. Always cool. And I'm not saying there wasn't a car that I didn't think I would want. There's always cars that I want. If I just had it like that, like if life were a video game, which it isn't. If life were a video game, I probably could have loaded up 50 cars and taken them home with me. And we're talking anything from an old Plymouth Cuda set up perfectly to some custom thing that used to be a delivery truck from the 60s to what's that stupid Mercedes G-Wagon, the 6x6 They have a bunch of exotic or hyper cars there, which I don't really care about those that much at Barrett Jackson. Like when you first walk into the first big tent, that's where they have the cool Ferraris and they had a McLaren P1 that's kind of like a smoky chrome color that was sick. But I don't really care about any of those cars. They had a Carrera GT that went across the block, which is, those of you who are into pop culture or anything about cars and Fast and Furious, the same car that Paul Walker died in. So I feel like you can't look at a Carrera GT. You can't be a movie guy and a car guy and look at a Carrera GT without thinking about Paul. And that's too bad, because that's just tragic. And so in a weird way, I just didn't want to have anything to do with that car. And I never, of course, why would I know him personally? If I know his brother. I have to wonder, when Cody sees that car, what does he think about? I always have to wonder that. But I mean, that's life, I guess, right? That's life. And a bunch of good shit has happened to him because of that very unfortunate life event, and he's made the most of it and continues to change lives and does the whole thing reach out worldwide. But anyway, that's still working on getting Cody back on. Maybe I'll get him on for next week's Super Bowl episode. But there were some badass cars there. I wanted a turkey leg. I didn't buy a turkey leg. My wife says I always waste our money, and she's right. I always buy a turkey leg. I eat a third of it. I get full. It loses. Once your food loses flavor, that means you're full. Or you realize how disgusting it actually is. Because the turkey legs grow those hard, like chopsticks come out. Those tendons, they're like chopsticks. But yeah, anyway. Washington Commanders. I think I talked about that already. I want to bring up some car news. Before I get to car news, I have a random thought of the week. I don't have a sponsor for the random thought of the week. So if you want to sponsor the show for the random thought of the week, you can. Didn't have one last year. Didn't matter. Still have random thoughts. My random thought is, you guys know the Hyundai commercial? The Hyundai. First off, some people say Hyundai, and some people say Hyundai. I think it's Hyundai. I don't think any commercials ever said Hyundai. I think it's Hyundai. The Hyundai Ioniq 5. That's the EV, and it's a Spider-Man commercial. So you have Ned pulling up to Peter Parker, or Spider-Man actually. He gets out of the hotel room and shoots the web, realizes he's 300 miles away from the city. And this is why this is important. Hyundai. Come on, man. You're killing me. The whole point of this commercial is Ned picks him up. He's on a full EV vehicle, and he can pick him up because he has a 300-mile range. So as the commercial comes to an end, you see that, I forgot the name of the city, New York maybe, 300 miles away. Introducing the all-new 300 miles on the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Da, da, da. Shouldn't that be 150 miles away? Or 145 miles away if we really want to stretch it? Because if you can go 300 miles on a charge, that charge should have died by the time he saw Spider-Man. And I didn't see any charger at that little motel that he was staying at. No one's going to look into it like I did. No one's going to care about that. I saw that and I was like, wait a minute. If you have a 300-mile range, it takes you 300 miles to get there and 300 miles back. That's 600 miles. That fucking sign should have said 150.
Well, I have a random thought.
Oh, by the way, guys, we're joined by Paka. Paka's a local. Paka's a friend of mine. Paka is at Mayo Clinic. What do you do? First off, give us your random thought.
Well, my random thought as of lately has been, when the hell can I go home? And when can I get out of this hospital?
That can't be. That's got to be a recurring thought that started off as random.
Well, I mean, it didn't. I guess it's been a recurring thought.
So why are you in the hospital, Paka?
So January 9th of 2022, I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And I started off at the ER at Mercy Gilbert, and I was transported here to Mayo Clinic the same night, January 9th. Along with that, I was also found out I was positive with COVID. So, yeah, so as my stay here at the Mayo Clinic, I've been in isolation up until Monday this week with the COVID restrictions and everything. And it's been a wild ride for 2022 so far. So my biggest thought, recurring thought, everyday thought is, what's my results looking like? What's all my treatments looking like? When can I go home? I think I'm almost there. I'm like the little train that could just keep going and going and going, But I know in my situation, it's a marathon. It's not a race, one day at a time. And, it's a game of hurry up and wait, basically.
It's like my work life, man. Hurry up and wait. So you're part of the first crew that I kind of hung out with when Yvette and I first moved here. Right. You were the young one.
Yes.
Little no worries, Hakuna Matata Paka is what we would call you, because it gets cold out here sometimes, but not to you.
Right. I love the cold, man.
Sandals and like, bro, we're going to get around the fire. This is nothing. Well, I'm glad you're able to join. That would be my random thought. It would become a recurring thought. When the hell am I going to get out of here?
Right.
How are they treating you?
They're treating me awesome here, man. They're making me feel like comforted. They're making me feel comforted, and not that necessarily that they make me feel at home, but I don't feel like I'm just some patient. I actually feel like I'm a part of the family here, and it feels really good to have that sense of comfort. And it does help. It helps my stay here. It helps my mental health as well. So yeah, like you said, I'm Hakuna Matata Paka, just, high energy, always positive. So I haven't really gotten down about the situation. Like, it's rough and all, but like I said, just one day at a time, just stay positive, be myself, and I'll make it through this just fine.
I don't see you as somebody who is on the whole, and there's nothing wrong with this, okay? For people who are, because people do this all the time. Why me? I could see you more of a, okay, well, this is what it is, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I honestly, to touch on that, I honestly did have a moment to where I did ask myself that. But,
why me?
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, why anybody?
Right. But
it's a shitty situation.
You wouldn't lurk on it, because I think anyone would say like, damn, man, what the fuck? Why me? But it's like, well,
yeah,
it is me.
Exactly.
That's how I would kind of be.
Yeah. And like I told my nurses, they're just like, man, you're so good about your situation. You're not down. You're still really high energy. You're still really positive. Your attitude's really good toward, the staff and everything. And I was like, well, there's an alternative to the way I can be, or there's an alternative to the way that I am. And that's not going to help anybody's situation. That won't help my situation. That won't help your guys' situation, So, why dwell on anything, and just let whatever the process is go and let it happen. Yeah. That's pretty much the way I looked at it. Even though if I did ask myself, why me? But just like I said, I won't dwell on that. I'll just look at the outcome, and the outcome looks good to me on my end, So just got to keep checking forward, and yeah, I'll be home and recovered way before anyone knows.
Well, with that said, and you will, and then you're going to be here in studio. I think you hold the record as maybe someone that I personally know the most views of the Gears and Gasoline video.
On the YouTube, right?
Yeah, the NSX one.
Okay. I did watch that segment a lot. I've showed it to a lot of people. Just like it was a good segment,
Did you see I sold my car?
I did not see that you sold your car.
Yeah, I sold
it. I don't believe that you sold your car. Did you?
I'm telling you.
Like for real, for real?
Yeah, for real. If something's emphasized, you have to say it twice.
Yeah, for sure.
For real, for real?
Oh
Yeah,
man.
for real, for real.
Oh wow, I
Was the
didn't know
movie
this. I
good or
didn't know
was it like good, good? Oh, it was good, good. Okay. All
that.
right.
So what made you sell it?
It was time. I have other stuff that I'm working on. Nothing I've officially announced on social media, but yeah,
Okay.
we'll get into once we can talk about it offline.
Yeah, for
Want to get
sure.
into some car news with me?
Sure.
All right. So earlier I mentioned that Barrett Jackson. This was their biggest one ever. They did between food and beverage and the auction block. They did 203,200,000, which is, I don't know what their previous record was, but that broke all their records. They broke their records in attendance. They broke their records in money. The average car that went across the auction block went on average for $105,517. There were 10 non-charity cars that went for over 1 million.
Jeez.
You know what? The photos I took the first Sunday that I went, I think were the only photos I really took. I just do this thing where I just don't even like really engage as much anymore.
Right.
I just hang out because what happens is you take a lot of photos and you get home, you flip through them, you post one or two on social media, and then you never empty out your camera roll.
You forget about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you forget about it. Koenigsegg has this tiny electric motor that they produce. It makes 335 horsepower and 443 foot of torque. Weighs just 63 pounds. It's called the Quark. So, Koenigsegg, you know what Koenigsegg is. You've seen the cars. I know you're not a diehard car guy, but they make like the super fast hypercars.
The Agera S and the Regera and stuff like that.
All right. That's more Koenigsegg models that I know of. They have this one called I'm going to say it's called the Gemera. It's Gemera. Could be Hymera. I don't know. I'm just going to call it the way it looks. Phonetically, it looks like the Gemera, which is a 4-seater. And apparently, according to this article, this Gemera is pushing 2 of these folded on some sort of like a little, they're called Quark motors. They call it the Terrier. Serves up to 670 horsepower and 811 pound of torque and weighs 180 pounds. That's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
It's made of space age material. It probably costs $1 gajillion. But if they could somehow take this technology and mass produce it and sell it to the other car manufacturers, like take, for instance, the NC1 NSX. It's one of several hybrid supercars. You have the LaFerrari, you have the Porsche 918, you have a ton of them now. Their biggest problem is the batteries are fucking heavy as shit. 187 pounds, 600 some horsepower. In this article, it said that, in terms of performance, the Gemera is a big power surge followed by a continuous record speed push to 248 miles an hour without any torque or power loss.
That's impressive.
Yeah, the Gemera has 1,700 horsepower. A 1,700 horsepower 4-seater.
Game changer for sure.
Dude.
Sorry.
Dude, I was at, I'll send you a picture of it. Maybe I took it the second time. Did I send you? Oh, no, I did send it to you. One of the photos I sent you was like an electric motor, some company there. And it was this big, huge, long thing. The picture of this, I'm looking at it right now.
Yes.
They put it next to an energy drink can. I don't think this thing is more than 9 inches tall. It looks like a roll. It looks like an old school film. You know how they put the film in the little film player, like in the old movies?
Yeah.
They coil it up and put it in a little film thing. It looks like that. Yeah, I'm going to send it to you once we get off. Like, this thing is cool looking. Like, the two of them stuck together. Look, yeah, if Koenigsegg were to take this, because it's made with like the super expensive, apparently, stuff. But if they were to take this, tone it down a little bit, they could mass produce this shit. And not that they need to make another several $1 billion, which, by the way, I have a question for you coming up in the Q&A that kind of doesn't answer, but it almost addresses what I was just about to say. But it's not like you have to they need to make more billions and billions of dollars. In fact, they probably don't make that much money, honestly, at the end of the day, because it's not a volume producer. Man, they could print their own money, man. This is a game changer. What do you think about EVs?
Yeah. I think EVs are kind of in that same category of being the game changer for the car scene.
You ever driven one?
Have I ever driven one?
For the record, I've never driven one.
I believe I have. I think it was a Tesla Model 3.
Okay.
So, very toned down. And I just kind of drove it around a parking lot. I didn't do like the whole I didn't try to
Like launch it and shit.
launch it and stuff or go super quick on it. It was just kind of like, it was weird to drive, to start it up and to not hear like an actual motor, for it to just like bing and you're moving. And yeah, it was quite the experience for sure, for just a small amount of time that I drove it. So I think for sure, like with the technology that we have today and going to continue to have, EVs are going to be the next thing. I mean, you look at guys on YouTube, they're making EV 350Zs, they got EV Porsches, they got EV, they got everything being EV nowadays. It's just as project cars. So it definitely delivers,
I got an old homie who lived here, and he moved to Hawaii, and he's got a wide body NSX, and he's got Supras and all that kind of shit. God, what is it? Stuck in the 90s is his Instagram, and he built an EV motor for his MK4 Supra. So,
wow.
and he's out there. I think he's on the mainland, but he looks bored as hell. And every time he's driving the car, it's always on. I mean, you're from Hawaii. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It's always on like this narrow driveway that looks like it's made out of tar, grass on both sides. In the car, like one car fits, so it must be like his driveway. I'm like, dude, I don't see any roller shots. I just see like storage crates and cars, shipping crates and cars.
Right.
I don't know if I'd like that. Hypothetical. What do you? Because I was talking about with Yvette, and she said she could just live, on the island and just stare at water all day. Yeah. You go back and forth. Would you rather live where you were? Were you from the Big Island? Which island?
I was from Maui.
Okay, super laid back. And Maui's. Is there any big city? I mean, we were in Maui, and it's just like you drive around, and there's towns.
Yeah. So Maui, there's not like a big city. If you want big city, then you go to
Oahu, right? Honolulu.
Yeah, Honolulu, Waikiki. You get all that. I mean, I always tell everybody, if you're going to go to Oahu and you're not going to go outside of the city, then you may as well just come out to Phoenix.
Right.
Because you see all the same stuff, you'll see all the same people, you'll see all the same problems.
Yeah. But you have the beach. You don't have the beach here.
That's true. That makes it a lot better, for sure. But yeah, coming from Maui, or coming from Hawaii in general, to kind of touch on your question, I don't know. It's just like whenever I go back I've gotten so adapted to the fast-paced living out here in Arizona. I feel like it's too relaxed now for me whenever I go back and visit.
Maui's slow, man.
Hawaii is slow. Even
we went to some town that's actually was kind of a hopping little party town, but it was only comprised of a couple blocks. It was on the west coast of Maui, kind of the upper west, because it was just outside of the the Marriott Golf Resort that we stayed at. And I don't remember the name of the town, but it was pretty cool. But other than that,
you're probably talking about Kaanapali.
Probably.
It's got this long strip of hotels and then the beach right in front, right out front.
Yeah, and those little fucking black crabs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it sounds like you're talking about Kaanapali with all the hotel bars and everything out there on the beach side. Like it is kind of like a little party scene. It's just walking down that strip. Yeah. So.
And then it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
12, 1 o'clock, your lights out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the car news. Sitting here with Mr. Chris Ashworth, who is visiting from Michigan. If the name Chris Ashworth sounds familiar to you, this is the gentleman who hooked me up with Bill, the guy who owns the Vector. They gave me a ride in one of my top 3 dream cars ever. So this is the man in front of me right now. So first off, as I've told you before, and I'll continue to tell you until I die, is, thank you for hooking up that opportunity.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy that you got that opportunity to do that.
So you're DT Rockstar.
DT Rockstar 1.
DT Rockstar 1 on YouTube, on Instagram. You've been doing this car thing for a while, and I know you had a life in music. You still dabble in a little bit. What is your come up? Like, I've only met you through cars, but I know you have this past. Who is Chris Ashworth?
Well, I got my first guitar when I was 10 years old. I got lessons and I started getting really good pretty fast. And then I ended up going to Berklee College of Music out in Boston, Massachusetts. That's
okay.
That's where a lot of really famous people have come out of there. I was playing music professionally for a number of years after that. Unfortunately,
starting when?
Starting in
from what age?
Well, I mean, I was 18 when I entered college. I think I started playing out when I was about 21 or so.
And you're 63 now?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
I'm 39.
39. Okay, close. You're doing the music.
So I was doing that for a while. I ended up getting burned out on that. You could say I was doing it for a living, but I never really made a living doing it. I always had to have a side job to supplement the income. And for some reason, I just got burned out on it. I wasn't really enjoying it anymore. I should mention what I played. I played guitar and sang background vocals. Okay.
Was this like cover or like original stuff?
Well, I did play in some original bands, but it was mostly cover bands. When I was in college, I played in a number of tribute shows. Like we did a tribute to AC/DC, tribute to Led Zeppelin, tribute to Van Halen, tribute to Journey and Pink Floyd. So we did a lot of rock bands. After that, I played in a cover band that lasted I was in it for a couple of years. We played all kinds of classic rock. And
what was it called?
It was called the Vinyl Underground.
Vinyl Underground. You're listening to the Vinyl Underground with Chris Ashworth and the Stringettes?
No, just the Vinyl Underground.
Just the Vinyl Underground.
It's hard to say why I got burned out. It just happened. I wasn't enjoying putting all the time and effort into learning the songs anymore, and it just became more of a chore after a while. Nowadays, I usually just pick up the acoustic guitar and jam on that.
Right. What else don't I know about Chris Ashworth?
Well, I'm also huge into fighter jets.
So you just came from?
Luke Air Force Base, right here in Arizona.
I feel like Luke is a popular one.
Well, it has the largest station of F-35 Lightning IIs in the whole world.
Okay, I would say that's, yeah.
So, there's people who will camp out at the end of the runway and other areas outside of the base just to watch the planes fly.
What is it about fighter jets that you're into? Like, why? Like, where does that come from? You just looked up and saw a jet one day and you're like, oh, that's really cool? Or is there somebody in the family? Or Top Gun started it?
I was into fighter jets ever since I was a kid. And I would say Top Gun was probably a big part of that. I know that a lot of people who are in the military hate that movie.
Sure.
There's definitely some silly parts about it, but as a kid, seeing those jets fly and hearing them, my parents took me to see some air shows when I was a kid, and I was hooked. Just the sound was just exhilarating when they fly over your head.
Yeah. Where are you on Iron Eagle? The Iron Eagle series.
Iron Eagle, those movies are so bad they're good.
I feel like I need to watch Iron Eagle after this.
What about The Final Countdown? You seen that one?
I've heard about it. I don't think I've seen The Final Countdown. Is that bad?
It's a good movie. It's a little bit hokey, but who's in it? Kirk Douglas.
Okay.
And Martin Sheen, a couple father actors.
Yeah. Where are you on Hot Shots?
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And both of them, actually.
Yeah, Hot Shots Part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Part 2.
Hot Shots Part 2. So I know you from Cars, but then I've always been curious with the whole DT Rockstar, so I kind of got that. So I didn't know. I was like, oh, did you say you just kind of got to the point where you stopped giving it 100 is basically what I heard? because you dedicated a lot of your life to that just to be like, or are you just looking for something else?
The burnout just happened naturally. I spent so much time as a kid practicing with a metronome for hours a day. I was trying to be a virtuoso, and I became somewhat of one. I was definitely no Eddie Van Halen, but I could definitely hold my own. But after a while, I think I lost my passion for it.
Well, so what's a metronome?
Metronome, that's one of those devices that goes tick tock, and you practice along. It's basically giving you a beat. So if I'm practicing a scale, you have to practice to the beat of the tick tock, and if you want to play it faster, you make the metronome go faster. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Got it. So it's a very musical thing.
Yes.
Can you audibly hear it? Because I feel like I've heard songs that you can hear it at the beginning on purpose, or maybe that was something else. Maybe that's someone's toe tapping, but what's that song? I don't know. I feel like I've heard like a tick-tock at the beginning of some songs, but
there could be a built-in metronome in the recording software that the people are using, or sometimes it's just a drum machine, just a device that programs drum sounds.
Matthew Sweet, Sick of Myself. You know the song?
I've heard the title before, but I haven't heard the song that I know of.
You had to have, man.
I probably have and just didn't know it. I know I've heard the title before.
I'm going to embarrass myself here. Something in your eyes that is keeping my hopes alive, but I'm sick of myself when I look at you. You have to know that song. I just embarrassed myself, and I'm not going to edit that out either.
It sounds somewhat familiar, but I'm not 100% on that.
I guiltlessly love that song, but it starts off kind of like, so yeah.
It might be a metronome. It's probably a built-in metronome in the software that they use, the recording software.
Yeah, especially when you said it's kind of a tick-tocky thing. So you went from music, you love fighter jets, and somewhere in there you tripped over a car, and then you started recording car videos. And here's the thing. You're not just into it, though. You will fly somewhere by yourself and check it out, whether it's to Weigert's place before he passed, the father of Vector, and meet this person and see their shit up close and personal. So to me, that's something most people won't do. And if they're doing it, they're not doing it by themselves. Because I'm on record to saying I don't like going places by myself. I don't like going car shows by myself, car meets by myself. But you're one of those rare breeds that kind of wander around and just do things by yourself.
That's correct. I do go to a lot of shows by myself. I mean, part of it is because I'm not close to that many people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other reason is it gives me the freedom to go to whatever shows I want. It gives me the freedom to stay there for as long as I want. Because, a lot of times I'm there from the beginning of the show till the end. I have a lot of patience at those shows, and a lot of people won't have that as much patience as I will. The other thing, too, is usually when I go to shows, I end up running into people I know anyways. So I end up hanging out with them.
Yeah, and I understand that because you're right. If you go with a couple people, it's like, all right, what time are you going? All right, are we going to meet up? Hey, what time are you trying to leave? Or let's go look at this, and you want to spend a little bit more time with this, and you end up getting fractured from them anyway. There's a lot of times I look around, I'm by myself, even if I came there with like a group of 3 or 4 people, because they're still walking, I'm checking out this motor or something. And I'm not to say I'm a gearhead, because I'm not, but sometimes there's some things that catch your eye. You just want to spend a little extra time looking at or appreciating.
Well, to be honest, I'm not much of a gearhead either.
Right.
I don't know that much about engineering aspects of cars. Like when people start talking about rods and McPherson struts and all that kind of stuff, most of that stuff is over my head. I get the gist of it, but I can't talk about every nut and bolt that's on a car like some people can.
Do you just kind of look at him, smile, and nod? Or are you just like, I'm sorry, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about?
Yeah, so I think I just smile and nod. I'm more of the polite person.
Yeah. I mean, I've had that too. You get around some of these younger guys with these pure gearheads, especially like the Honda guys, and they'll be like, "Oh man, I love your car. Is that a B? Da 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 da." And I was like, I could tell you the engine, but that's about it.
Yeah.
You start asking me, is that this or that, or which wastegate is this, which blow-off valve, which and fitting is that? I'm like, I don't know. Talk to Science and Speed. Talk to my mechanic, That's an easy way to get lost. There's people who listen to this show. They're like, I like your podcast, but once you guys start talking about cars, I am lost. I'm like, we don't even get that deep.
Right.
Cars, but there's levels, right? There's levels of this shit. So, but we had a conversation when I was in Michigan last time, and we were talking about the differences in modern cars. Maybe we touched on old cars. What are you appreciating more now? I found that you're actually appreciating some of the newer stuff instead of some of the older stuff.
Overall, I appreciate the older stuff more, mostly the stuff from like the 80s and 90s. But I think some of the car shows that I've been to recently, I don't get to see cars like Koenigsegg's and Pagani's very often.
Sure.
But I have been to a couple shows recently where I've seen them, and I'm starting to appreciate those more than I used to. Because before I just saw them as fanboy cars that...
and to be clear, a lot of times they are, but not always.
Yeah, a lot of times they are, but after seeing them up close in person, I am starting to appreciate them more. I enjoy them more when I see a real journalist driving them rather than some YouTuber who's just recording one driving by.
Or they have new money and they want to show the world, so they want to dance on top of the car because they can.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think that is, though? Because at the end of the day, the car costs the same regardless of who's buying it. But I think there's this deep thing that we have, and it could be out of maybe a sense of respect or appreciation. And that doesn't necessarily mean we really appreciate the vehicle more than them, but the perception is we do because they're dancing on it. So sometimes they could have worked really hard for it, but I don't know. There's this thing like my son, we asked him years ago because he just wanted us to give him everything. He's not like that anymore, but it's like, well, don't you think you would appreciate it more if you earned it? He said, no. Yeah. And it's a common mindset, but for those people who work really hard for what they have,
they appreciate it more.
Statistically speaking, they seem to appreciate it more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, there's that weird thing to the assumption that someone doesn't appreciate something. Like, where do you think that comes from? Like, how do you define that? If you're able to, that's kind of a psychological question, but try to wrap your head around it the best you can. Like, why do we differentiate who appreciates and who doesn't?
I think a lot of the people who own some of the older cars, some of the classic cars, it seems like they know a little bit more about the cars than the people who own or are fans of the newer cars, like the Koenigsegg's and the Pagani's.
Yeah.
I think the fan base of cars like the Koenigsegg and the Pagani and the Bugattis, the fan base of those cars are younger. So they tend to be a little bit less experienced. They tend to have less knowledge.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. They have less experience, maybe less level. The maturation isn't there.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they could have all the knowledge in the world. Some of them have dedicated weirdly large amounts of their life to knowing every little thing about some of these cars. I guess we've been there and done that in some capacity, but we still don't have the experience of appreciating a vehicle. And maybe that's the difference. Like scientifically, teenagers' brains aren't as developed in certain parts, so they're more willing to take risks without thinking about it.
Right.
Like that's a thing. Learned that in the science. What's that science place in downtown Chicago? Like the science.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Yeah. And you read it. There's like a graphic on there, and they're like, "This is actually a fact." That makes sense. That's why as teenagers we make dumb decisions.
Yeah.
We don't think about them. And what seems like it's right, what's the big deal? No one cares. I don't see the big deal. Well, it is a big deal. And yeah, I guess that does filter over into cars a little bit. We've talked about this before because you have your YouTube channel and you were always uploading content before it got really popular. Now you look up and there's people doing that. There's people who've been doing what you basically were doing 10, 12 years ago, and they've had millions of followers and they've cashed in on that opportunity because you put a lot of energy into that.
Yeah.
Then, and it's just like playing, guitar. It's got to be hard to keep carrying that. Were you ever like, damn it? That could have been me. That should have been me. Are you bitter at all about that? A little bit, it's like, here's an example. The Kardashians, everyone is crazy over.
Yes.
Before the Kardashians, there was Paris Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
But where we were as a society in shock TV and reality TV, we weren't ready for that bullshit. Now that bullshit is everywhere. And I apologize to anybody out there who loves Kardashians like my wife. It's shit TV, but it's ratings and people love it. Half these people don't even know who Paris Hilton is. We know who it is.
Yeah, of course.
Because 20 years ago, Paris Hilton, 15 years ago, she was everywhere. She was the Kardashians before the Kardashians. So in your perspective of doing these videos and stuff, cars and vlogs, where are you mentally with what's going on?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm bitter about it. It is kind of a bummer. I'm kind of bummed that my channel has, I am not one of those with millions of followers. I kind of wish I could do this all the time, but I guess it is what it is. And
yeah.
I've been to so many car shows now that I've actually kind of gotten burned out on cars too.
Right.
I've seen everything.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Hey, people listening, when he says he's seen everything, he's seen everything.
Yeah, I've been to hundreds of car shows. I've flown around the country and yeah, I've seen it's very difficult for me to go to a car show and see something I've never seen before because I've been doing this for 10, 12 years now.
And you're kind of, this is what you get with me type of person. So you're not like walking around with the selfie cam being super excited. It's just, you are you. Is that
right.
fair?
I'm not, yeah, I'm not pointing the camera toward me and going, "What's up, everybody? What's up, YouTube?" I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Dude, could you do that again? I like that.
What's up, YouTube? What's going on?
You got it down, man.
But I don't know. To me, that's kind of obnoxious. That's not really me. Sometimes I will talk to the camera, but I'm just talking like I am to you right now. And so, yeah, I do mostly me, like you said. I film a lot of cars that are not necessarily the most popular. I'm trying to film the cars that nobody's filming.
Right.
Like the Vector, like the Cizeta V16T. And by the way, if you're not familiar with that car, that's spelt Cizeta. That's another car from the Vector era.
Cizeta?
Cizeta.
Cizeta.
Yes.
So it's what, 5 letters, three syllables?
Three syllables. Cizeta. Six letters.
That's got to be a record, right?
Something. It's got a V16 engine.
V16 engine.
Yes. So those are the kinds of cars that I go for.
Let's do some Q&A. I kind of got you into Q&A. Do you have a pet peeve?
A pet peeve. Let's see.
What's something you really hate that people do?
If you're working at some kind of a service job.
Example.
Back in the day when I used to work at Starbucks.
Okay.
When people are very rude to you over a little mistake or they just bitch about everything. And it's like, come on, people. It's a cup of coffee. Really?
How dare you say Starbucks is just a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
That's why you're no longer employed there. I'm pointing at you from across the desk.
Right. Yes, that's exactly
it. What kind of things would, because I agree. That's, people who blame the employee for all their life's problems.
Right. Well, yes. Okay. I think that's a very good one right there, is blaming the employee when they're just doing their job. They would get in trouble if they didn't do otherwise. So here's a good example. When the Starbucks that I was working at, we were not allowed to take $50 bills or $100 bills. Okay. One guy tried to give us one, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We can't take those." And I said, "Sorry about that." He said, "You should be." And his wife, or I'm assuming his wife with him, said, "You should be." And he goes, "It's such a stupid policy." And I'm thinking, right, because I'm the founder and CEO of Starbucks, and I came up with that policy.
Right.
I don't do this for the money. I just love standing behind a counter all day.
It's like, okay, sir, I understand you're upset. What is it you think I should do? Take your money that we can't take?
Yeah.
So his coworker, whatever, wife, she looked at him, was like, "You should be." Like, she was kind of embarrassed. Is that what that was? Or did she direct that toward you?
She directed it toward him. And she kind of laughed a little bit, but she was like, wow, I can't believe you said that.
Right. Like, what the hell? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I mean, I could understand the perceived inconvenience if I whip out a 50 anytime, because that's why they make $50 and $100 bills. But at the same time, I also know that not everybody accepts them.
Right.
And for those people who do accept them, they're probably going to have a magical pin right behind the counter. But if you don't accept them, you don't accept them.
Right. And the thing is, I was in my 20s at the time. So, and I looked even younger than I really was. So when people saw me, they're going to think, well, this guy's not the CEO of Starbucks. He didn't come up with this policy. It's common sense.
Chris Ashworth, thank you for coming by Hard Parking. That's Chris Ashworth, DT Rockstar 1. DT Rockstar 1, no spaces, Instagram. Is there an underscore somewhere in there?
Nope, just as you said, a DT Rockstar 1.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Sitting here with Mr. Drew Bunkley of Fountain Hills Motorsports, returning to the show sponsor. Today we're going to talk about the BMW M6 2014 that you guys threw at me for the weekend.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, Jay. I mean, the M6 is a great car. I was hoping you could get something that maybe So I've seen a bunch of your talks about BMWs. So I figured I'd throw this one to you and let's get an experience for you.
Yeah, I think overall, though, the vehicle was great. It's something that also my wife liked a lot. She goes, wow, this is nice. I may have to trade in my old Audi for it. And I go, well, maybe not the M6 because we have other plans for our money. But, you know, the price with today's market, I mean, I think the price is very generous. You guys have it listed for 52-ish, 51-ish?
Yeah, $51,995. Yeah, the price is, I mean, with the average price of cars right now being around $40,000, I mean, it's a great buy.
Yeah, and this is 560 horsepower, 500 feet of torque.
Yeah,
Grand Coupe.
Yeah, it's the Grand Coupe. So, yeah, I think it's 500, between 560, 575. Yeah, it's got power. You drove it. What do you think? Tell me.
You know, so it has the 3 modes. It has the full track mode, which I didn't touch. I was tempted. But when it asked me, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, I kind of chickened out. I was at a stoplight and I was like, for the video, I was like, no, cancel that. So I spent all my time in efficiency and sport. Most vehicles, I automatically go into sport mode. I like sport mode. Gives you a little more. And you could tell the steering wheel immediately tightened up a little bit. You could hear a little bit more grumble and, you know, the pedal was a lot more sensitive.
Right.
So, FYI, anybody who goes into sport mode with a BMW, especially an M, we're not talking an M trim, we're talking like an M. So 540M versus an M5, completely different, right?
Correct, yeah.
Stay off of sport mode and drop if there's traffic. Bumper to bumper traffic, freeway locked up on me. And I was like, you know what? This drives like shit in traffic. And I go, because I'm in sport mode.
Yeah, and I'd be surprised. The efficiency mode, the regular drive mode for the M6, you know, there's a lot there still.
It's plenty.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I actually spent most of my time in this car, is where I was going to get to, in efficiency. Because efficiency mode was more than, you know, most cars, sports mode.
Definitely. It's a good car to drive. And I like the Grand Coupe because, you know, originally one of my nice cars that I enjoyed was the Mercedes-Benz, the CLS. And I think they kind of started that European Grand Coupe style. So when BMW came out with their 6 Series and with the M6, it's a nice cross between that 2-door coupe, that 4-door, like, you know, 5 Series, 7 Series, where you can, you know, for a person that's graduating out of an M3 or an M4, you know, maybe they've got a couple kids on the way, or, you know, they've gotten a little older and they want to be more mature about their driving selection. The M6 is a car that they can definitely jump into and still have the fun that they had with the smaller M-Class series.
I did a big air quotes when he said mature. Because this definitely feels like an adult's play car, like a corner office car. It's what I used to call like an Audi S8. You know, something kind of next level, not just someone who wants to be a little classy, but it's like the classier's classy. And then, I mean, and I think everyone recognizes it on the road too. They're like, oh shit, that's an M6.
Yeah.
It's same way we approach it. Like, is that an M3? That's cool. M4, that's really nice. M5, wow. M6, wow. I think the only one that kind of gets shunned is it the X6? The X5 version, but the 6, what is the big egg-shaped SUV that's not very useful?
The X7? They have a new X7, the X5, the X3. They've got an X3.
Was it X6 before?
Yeah, they have a X6, like a SUV.
Yeah, I think it was rated as like one of the most pointless vehicles on the road.
It's one with the sloopy back. And,
very sloopy. Yeah. It's like you can't store anything in it.
Mercedes has a similar, the GLC, their coupe type SUV in an M series. They've got that in the AMG series. I've
driven the little GLC coupe. I thought it was kind of really cool, and then I saw some lady in front of me with like a all pinked out license plate. I was in Palm Springs or Rancho Mirage, and kind of like your wife's car all studded out and stuff like that, all sugar bears out, and I was like, oh, because just before that I was thinking, wow, this is a car I think I could maybe I could trade the old Infiniti in for this, and I go, oh, never mind, it's gonna be a hard no. But no, this M6, man, this is a sweet car.
What do you think about the transmission?
I didn't think the transmission was bad. You kind of warned me that it wants to be a manual, so I didn't play with the paddles too much. And sometimes I do, but I didn't really play with it too much. So when driving around, it was really nice. One of the things that bugged the shit out of me was the lane departure warning. And not the lane departure warning, but like, hey, there's somebody coming up on your left when you try to switch lanes.
Your blind spot. Yeah.
Your blind spot. Because the way that it's
it tightens the wheel up, gives you a vibration.
It vibrates. And then I got some of that, I think maybe of that vibration just driving. And I think it may be whatever that thing was, it might be loose, but not consistently. And then, of course, we know with the emergency phone being turned off, every once in a while, the little thing would pop up, the little caution sign. But you explained that. I figured it was something very minor and insignificant, and of course it is. But
yeah, the BMW too, that one in particular has a lot of the advanced safety features. So it has the cross traffic alert, which I actually turned off for you.
I saw that.
Yeah, because that's the one when you
jerks you back,
jerk into a little bit on the lines. Yeah, you feel all that. So it's not, if you're going to drive aggressive, that's something you want to turn off.
Yeah, because you'll be fighting the car the whole time. I had a 2023 series. It was either 20 or 21. I think maybe it was a 21 3 Series X Drive, and it kept doing that. And I could not find the button to turn that off. So everywhere I went, and of course I was on backcountry roads too, because this was a place I was staying at way the hell out in the middle of nowhere. So there's curves, so it just automatically senses the line, and the whole fucking thing was a nightmare. But no, I appreciate you turning that off for me.
Yeah, and this being the Grand Coupe, it's a nice touring car.
Absolutely.
This is a nice car. You can jump in, head to Vegas, head to LA, Utah, whatever, take a nice little road trip. It's the only thing I do kind of hesitate on is it's thirsty.
It is very thirsty. It is very, very thirsty. That's a factual statement. It's a gas guzzler, 4.4 liter V8, I think is what I looked up on it.
Twin turbo.
Yeah, it's all starting to make sense now, for sure. This thing wants to go fast.
No question.
Yeah, so you look down and it's like, oh shit, I'm going 20 mile an hour over the speed limit. And a lot of people kind of go the flow of traffic, but when you're going a little bit faster than everybody else going the flow of traffic, you look up. And of course, the heads up display prevents you from having to look down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think BMW is really good with that. And even in some of the newer models where you see the map and the radio and everything in the display in front of you, I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
This one, it didn't really matter, but it still kind of has a little display. But I think just having that HUD there is very useful. And then when you flip it into sport mode, the HUD changes to let you know, hey, by the way, you're in kind of a supersonic badass mode.
Yeah. It's got that huge RPM gauge that goes across your screen.
Yeah, that thing is pretty cool. So that is, Drew, thanks for throwing the keys to me of that thing for the weekend. That thing was pretty awesome. Hopefully you guys get it sold super soon. It probably will be sold by the time this comes out.
We hope so. But if not, we'll find you something else to drive. So let me know if you want an SUV or... Yeah, so I know you do the nice rental car reviews. So, I want to throw you something a little bit nicer.
Sure.
But listen, I do have some vehicles that will fit that criteria. But just let me know. Take a look at the website. Anything you want to take out, just let me know.
All right. That sounds good. I'll drive anything, though.
I got some Hyundai Palisades.
I'll take that next.
There you go.
Well, Pac, I'm going to keep you on with me. Let's do I got a couple questions for you. And you have your little, how do you say it? Ukulele?
Ukulele.
Who?
Ukulele.
Ukulele.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing as a ukulele, or there's different, or ukulele?
Yeah.
No one ever says it right.
No one ever says it right.
So it's ukulele.
Yeah, ukulele.
Ukulele.
Yeah. I had to think a couple of times, but you'll get it.
Ukulele. I'm gonna correct Yvette. She loves it when I correct her. Women in general love it when you correct them.
Oh yeah.
Right. All right,
100% agree.
what's one of your pet peeves? Will ask this question.
It's the lack of acknowledgement. Like
Explain.
whenever I'm out at places, it's like if I'm walking out of a store and somebody's walking out behind me or trying to walk in, I do that out of courtesy, and
I see what you're saying.
And it's like some people acknowledge it and some people say thank you. Some people just walk right by you like nothing even happened. And it's like, all right,
Next time I'll make sure I'll close the door on your fucking ass.
Right, exactly. But I have a problem with keeping my mouth shut when it comes to that type of thing. So I'm just like, hey, like, you good? And they're just like, what?
They're like, this Hawaiian guy's about to beat my ass.
Yeah, and then they're just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I wasn't holding the door open for Casper, like I'm that dude. And they're just like, oh shit, man, thank you. So like I that's my pet peeve, but I always I guess announce it.
They start emptying their wallet. Look, man, take what you want, man. Take what you want. I don't have much on me.
I don't get that bad.
Oh, okay. Well, then, say thank you, motherfucker. How much money you got?
Exactly. Yeah. So I definitely address the pet peeve, but that's one of my biggest ones, man. Is just the lack of acknowledgement these days. This society, this generation, whatever you want to call it, they just just courtesy. I showed you common courtesy. You can show it back. Have some manners.
Yeah.
If somebody's going out of their way to do something nice for you, show it. Show your gratitude somehow. Just say thanks or smile. That's all.
100%, man.
Yeah.
I think one of the 500 pet peeves that I have is I hate having to repeat myself. And I don't mind repeating myself, but when I have to repeat myself again and again, it's because you're not paying attention to me. And it's almost like it's kind of along the same spectrum as your pet peeve example.
Right.
If I show you, or if I tell you something 3 times and you ask me the 4th time because you weren't paying attention the first 3 times, and I start to get a little attitude with you, and then you get mad at me for having an attitude with you.
Yeah.
How about we listen?
Mm-hmm.
You got a taste of that earlier.
Yeah.
For the people who are patrons, you'll be able to hear it. But we had a situation earlier, and Paca got to hear what Jay sounds like when he's perturbed. Next question from Maui Mike Davis, and this is the one I was kind of foreshadowing earlier. And I hate this question, by the way, because it paints you into a corner, and it's a ridiculous choice to make. Would you rather be very wealthy but can only spend your wealth on food and supplies, like an EBT card, like they give you a card, I guess? Or would you rather be dead broke with no income but doing whatever you are passionate about for no monetary gain, no debt, no bills, no taxes for life? It's kind of loaded, right?
That's a loaded question for sure.
So would you rather be wealthy as fuck but you can only buy food and supplies? Like, I don't know, what's supplies? Like, supplies for what? I guess you can only buy what? Or would you rather be broke as hell, but doing whatever you're passionate about?
Well, see, here's a question to that question.
No bills?
What is considered supplies?
That's a damn good question.
Like, I could be wealthy and have a business, and I would need supplies from my business to keep running.
Transportation is a supply, isn't it?
Yes. So I can also pursue my passion, being wealthy and living off of an EBT card with food and supplies. But like you said, I do agree. It's a loaded question. It could go either way. But to not have any bills, not to have any worries, and just pursue what I want to pursue personally, that doesn't sound half bad either.
Right. I mean, if I can't spend my money on hookers and blow, then maybe my wealth will attract both.
Right.
But here's the problem I have about being dead broke with no income, but you're able to do whatever you're passionate about for no monetary gain, no debt, no bills, or no taxes. So no debt is one thing. there's a lot of people, well, there's a few people out there that have no debt. They live debt free, but they still have bills and they have to have income to pay those bills, right?
Yeah.
They have no revolving debt. Cars are paid off, house paid off, credit cards paid off. People pay taxes. So I think I think the simplification of the question is, would you rather be rich and miserable or broke and happy? Broke and happy, right? Everyone would rather be broke and happy. But I don't want to be homeless.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be homeless. I wouldn't want to be homeless, but I wouldn't mind being houseless. If that makes any sense.
Explain. Because it kind of does. That's like a short version of this question.
Yeah. So I do agree. I would rather be broke and happy. I wouldn't, because you can make anywhere your home, whether you have a physical home or not.
Home is
you
where you
make anywhere your home. Home is where you make it. Home is where the heart is. It's just like they say. But yeah, so like, I'd rather be houseless than homeless.
Fucking idealist. I don't know, because I mean, we could talk all day about this. Like, you know me, you've known me for a while, and for as long as you've known me, I've traveled every week.
Right.
And there's people who do what I do that, they have an apartment, they don't have a house, they don't have any personal overhead, family, kids, whatever. And they can say, okay, well, I'm going to take a job in Chicago and live in Chicago for 6 months. And then I'm going to take a job in somewhere in Florida and live in Florida for 6 months. And I think for me, you're nomadic, but you have a home, because when you go home, you just have somewhere that you can call home. Because I love racking up miles. I love racking up hotel points. I love driving cars that don't belong to me. But sometimes you just want to sleep in your own bed, and you don't have your own bed unless you have your own home. That's, not to get too.
No, that I agree with.
Yeah. So, but I think I agree with what you were saying in spirit too.
Yeah.
Pac, I want to thank you for hanging out. Just hang out a little bit longer as I go through my closing spiel. I want to thank Chris Ashworth for joining me a couple months ago. Glad I finally got that on. Thank you to Fountain Hills Motorsports as a new show sponsor. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to the podcast and go out and tell a friend about it. Leave a review on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you're allowed to leave a review. I want to thank Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Foil Online, Cell Shop Wireless Services, Fountain Hills Motorsports, and Patreon business supporter Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month and get access to bonus audio as well as show swag. I want to thank Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Graves, Byron Jones, Bo Jung, and Alex Gumina for being Patreons. If you have questions for the show, email me at hardparkingpodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram at jfinning, that's JHAEPFENNING, or jtravels, JHAE_travels. Join the Hard Parking Violations Facebook page. Subscribe to me on YouTube, youtube.com/hardparkingmedia. Paca, how can they get a hold of you? You have a private account, don't you, on Instagram? One of those fuckers?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Let me see. I forget.
Guys, don't bother trying to follow. Anyone with a private account, don't even waste your time. He's not going to accept it. You can join the Hard Parking Violations Facebook page, though, and you should join it too. Join me on One Drink Wednesday. Join myself and Wes on One Drink Wednesday. We do it every Wednesday on Instagram Live. I can't grow without you telling the world how good the show is. Let's do this. Let's grow this thing together. Paca, you have anything for us?
Jay, I'd like to thank you for having me on the podcast today, man. Really appreciate you, and give me the invite and your time. Here's a little jam for you.
Oh, man.
Sunday morning, rain is falling. Still some cover share, some skin. Clouds are shrouding us in moments unforgettable. You twist and fit the mold that I am in. Things just get so crazy living. Life gets hard to do. Sunday morning, rain is falling, and I'm coming home to you. Singing someday, this will bring me back to you. Someday this will bring me back to you. And maybe all I need in the darkness, she is all I see. Come and rest your bones with me. Driving slow on Sunday morning, and I never want to leave. Fingers trace your every outline. Oh yeah, yeah. Paint a picture with your hand. Oh, back and forth we sway like branches in a storm. A change of weather, still together when it ends. And maybe all I need in the darkness, she is all I see. Come and rest your bone with me. Driving slow on Sunday morning, and I never want to leave. All right.
Now it's stripping time.
Shut up!